Here.
Trustee Bill present. Trustee Foyt,
Here.
Trustee Benavides,
Here.
Trustee Wadley Mine,
Here.
Trustee Francis Drake, Trustee Raymaker,
Here.
Trustee Wilson,
Here.
Trustee Melendrez,
Here.
Trustee Rogers,
Here.
and just want to confirm that Council Welt is on the phone.
I am.
Thank you, sir. You do have a quorum, Chair Ortiz.
Thank you very much. We're going to have traffic here so we don't get a lot of feedback. Will everybody please stand so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with and justice for all. Good evening, and thank you for everybody else joining us on this meeting on WebEx. At this time, our next agenda item is public comment. Topics raised under this item must be limited to matters on today's agenda. To comment on an item appearing on this agenda, you may send an email to boardcomments@lvccld.org. And any comments identified will be read at the end of this meeting. At this time, Ms. Allison, Ms. Boyer, is there any individual wishing to speak?
Chair Ortiz, we did get an email from Mr. Grant Davis from Teamsters 14. And we're checking to see if he's on. He wanted to speak on items 9A, 9B, and 9C. I don't seem to see him on the list of attendees. If he could do me a favor, if he's on, like on the phone, could he send me do a chat to me so we know he's on and can figure out what name he's under?
Mr. Grant, if you'd like to speak, please email Ms. Boyer. That way we can access and allow your microphone to come on.
I don't see. I do apologize. I'm not seeing anything. If he comes on and lets me know, I will let you know when that happens.
Thank you very much. At this time, please take a look at the proposed agenda. We are going to remove the approval of the proposed minutes. Other than that change, does anybody have any other changes?
It's not changes. Marilyn and I do not have the agenda that was supposed to come up on the computer.
Brian Zawistowski, are you able to post the agenda?
Let me get her. Chair Ortiz, give me 1 second and I'll bring in copies for them.
Thank you.
And I did just hear that Grant is on the phone. So let us move.
Okay, go ahead and unmute him. Mr. Grant, is Grant your first name or last name?
It's Mr. Grant Davis.
Okay. Did you
And
unmute?
hang on.
Okay.
Mr. Davis, if you are on the phone, there's a number of people that are on the phone. Give us a second so we can make sure we identify you. Yes, please.
Felipe, I believe he wants to speak on items later. Can we continue on until we figure that out, or maybe not?
I prefer you speak now, but if we'll give him 1 more minute. Okay, Allison, for the good of the order, just let me know when he comes on. At this time, if everybody, the board members have taken a look at the agenda.
I would move to accept the agenda.
And this is Jose.
Shannon.
Second.
Trustee Shannon Bilberry Axelrod moves to accept the agenda, seconded by Jose Luis. Is there any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, motion carries. Thank you very much. And so at this time, until we get Mr. Grant, let's go to the chair's report. At this time, I'd like to appoint a nominating committee and schedule a meeting for June. And the nominating committee is myself, Robin Munier Wadley, Elizabeth Foyt, and Marilyn Francis Drake. Okay, so there will be a nominating committee meeting in June.
I know it's.
Okay.
Follow members, whatever.
So secondly, we're going to have a risk management committee meeting also in June. They will tell us when that is. And then I don't have anything else to report at this time. Director Heesen, is there any, you're up next. If you would please come forward and tell us your report, give us your report.
Okay, the most important item on my report is the governor's statement yesterday saying we can proceed to phase 1. We will be ready to do that on the 30th, and we're looking forward to getting back into the swing of things. I want to give a shout out to our entire safety and mitigation team who has been putting all this stuff together and working tremendous hours to make sure that we have in fact covered all the bases and are ready to serve the public appropriately.
Does anybody have any questions of Director Heesen on phase 1 opening?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
I do.
All right, Trustee Shannon Bilberry Axelrod.
I was just wondering, was there any issues with the disinfectant that went throughout all the libraries? Did that go off without a hitch? I just want to make sure our employees are safe.
It's gone off without a hitch, and hopefully we're taking care of the microbials. So I think that was a very good move on the part of John Dino and Steve Rice and the team there. Nicole Baker.
Thank you very much. Trustee Robin Munier, do you have any questions for the director?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Trustee Marilyn Francis Drake, do you have any questions for the director on this issue?
No, as I understand it, we will go into phase 1, open it on the 30th.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That we're trying to do that. It's going to be quite a rush to get everything done, but we're hoping we will be there and ready to go.
Thank you very much. Trustee,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Drake, do you have any questions, comments?
Nothing at this time. Thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you. Trustee Kelly Benavides, any questions or comments?
At this time, I know everybody is probably very anxious to get back to work. I know this was our first week back into the office, and it was interesting, but I'm glad that we kind of have to get the ball rolling now. So I appreciate everybody's help and definitely their dedication. So thank you.
And we appreciate the dedication and caring of our board members. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Sandra Raymaker, do you have any questions or comments for the director on the opening of May 30th, phase 1?
No, we're just, everybody here in Mesquite is so excited, and you know, our little restaurants are open and people are just so excited the library is going to open and so appreciative of everything that's been going on. And just thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you very much. Trustee,
Tell you.
any questions or comments for the director?
And, I'm glad to hear that we're opening. Honestly, I don't share the impressive my fellow trustees with opening on the 30th. We've had a team sitting around for 2 months now planning this, and I think we should have already been open by now. Phase 1, we should be waiting longer.
Thank you very much. Trustee Jose Luis Melendez, do you have any questions or comments for the director?
No questions this time, just want to open, everybody be safe.
Thank you very much. Trustee Rogers, do you have any questions or comments?
Nothing, just glad to hear the positive news and looking forward to, continuing to roll through the phase until we're fully operational.
Thank you very much. Director Teen, is there any other reports you'd like to talk to us about or anything else?
I have nothing else unless you have questions on any of the departmental reports.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Allison, let's get Mr. Grant Davis on the line. Okay, not on the line.
We're still trying to, he is on, we're gonna have to go through a number of people who are calling in. I'm sorry, Brian has told me we've got him, and we're going to make him a panelist, and he can unmute him. We can unmute him. So we can go ahead and do that now.
Okay, everybody's being muted, and then we'll call for you to be unmuted, okay? Thank you very much. In your possession are library reports. If you've had an opportunity to take a look at them, please let us know if there's anything you'd like to call forward. We have the executive director's report. Thank you very much. The library operations director report, the branding and marketing, community engagement director report, IT information technology director report, financial report. Okay, if there are no questions from those reports, let's move on. Thank you very much for those reports. And I'm sorry, program, Daniil, I missed your area. You have a report in there also. Thank you so much.
You need a motion to accept those.
Hang on one second. All right, having no one call forward any of the reports, I'll accept the motion to accept. I'll take a motion to
So
accept.
moved. Shannon?
This is Robin. I so move to accept all the reports in their entirety as presented.
Thank you. Moved by Shannon Bilberry Axelrod, seconded by Robin Wadley Munier. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go back to our number 2 item, public comment. Topics raised on this item must be limited to the matters on today's agenda. I understand Mr. Grant Davis is on the line. Mr. Davis, you'll have about 5 minutes with a little bit of leeway, and I understand you also have a need to do a presentation, so we'll give you a little bit more time. Please identify yourself for the record and welcome.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Good evening. My name is Grant Davis. I'm the president of Teamsters Local 14. Am I on? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'd like to speak to you this evening about your budget discussions that will take place tonight and the direction you will be providing Mr. James and his staff. In our initial meeting, we were informed that there would be an approximate shortage of about $5 million per year for the next 2 years in the budget. Mr. James and Mr. Abbott presented us with a solution that was previously presented to you, that the union was asked to contribute a concession of $5.4 million over the 2 years. We attempted to ask questions to better understand the numbers presented, and it was very shocking and disappointing that we were told that there was no need for questions, accept the information presented at face value, and agree to the proposed concessions. What was even more disheartening was that the threat of layoffs was interjected into the meeting almost from the very start. We were told that if we didn't do exactly what was being asked, we would be choosing to inflict layoffs on our coworkers. One of the numbers that we had a very difficult time understanding is Mr. James' projection of the services and supplies expenditures. In the presentation to the board on April 28th, documents provided indicated that there was a $9.5 million increase in expenditures. Only $2.7 million of that increase could be attributed to the salary and benefits, with a $6.8 million increase in district operations. In doing some research over the last 5 years, the services and supplies expenditures were over budgeted by an average of 18.2% a year, or 11.8 million over budgeted over the last 5 years. If the original budgeted 16.1 million is the result of an 18% over budgeting, as history would indicate, then the accurate supplies and services expenditures would be more in the range of 13.2 million, and the yearly hole to fill is closer to 3.2 million. The next number that the union has concerns about is an ending fund balance at 20% or greater for the next 2 years. During normal circumstances, that would be great, but we aren't planning for normal circumstances. It is not appropriate to ask the employees to shoulder the entire burden of the concessions, but the district isn't willing to manage their finances to contribute in finding a solution to this problem. We feel that with the uncertainty in the economy over the next year, we are only willing to address 1 year currently. The committee was unanimous in immediately agreeing to the first-year COLA and health and welfare premium freeze, but not the merit freeze. This concession has a value of $1.5 million. I believe Mr. James is bringing you a proposal tonight that doesn't reflect an offer that was provided, that provided the most concessions to the district. I anticipate they will present you the solution wherein the employees agree to the 1-year freeze of COLA and health and welfare increases. We made an offer that included a COLA freeze in the 22 fiscal year and made a proposal to add an extra year on the contract, which included concessions to the district. But we were told there was no value in the 2nd-year COLA freeze and that the board would rather do layoffs than take a 2nd-year freeze in COLA. Even more shockingly, Mr. Abbott told me that even if we agreed to all 3 concession criteria, that there are board members that would still want to do layoffs due to appearances and what was happening elsewhere in the valley. We represent many other public entities, and almost all of them are utilizing reserves and lowering their ending fund balance to try to avoid layoffs. Mr. Abbott has always been truthful with me, so I have no reason not to believe what he has told me, but it does leave me angry. Angry that there are board members that obviously don't understand that the employees are the district's greatest asset, and that they are willing to unnecessarily lay them off just for appearances. I have a hard time understanding how in an economy where we need to get people back to work, you're willing to just unnecessarily discard employees. During this time of uncertainty, board members and Mr. James need to stop looking to pad numbers in the budget and remember that it isn't just numbers you are affecting, it is your employees and their families' lives that are being impacted. Thank you for your time.
Grant, did you have a chart or anything like that to
You
show?
know what? Initially I had, but I was not sure we were going to get the technology working. We had some issues, so I decided not to present any exhibits.
Thank you very much. And your comments were directed to 9A, 9B, and 9C of the agenda. Is that correct?
And I believe hold on a second here. 9D also includes a discussion of the district's labor agreements with Teamsters 14.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your public comment today.
Thank you.
Along with our agenda. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to unfinished business. We do not have any unfinished business. At this time, we need to go into executive session. Can I have a motion to move into executive session?
Thank you.
So moved.
Uh,
Oh, I can't do that.
So moved. Shannon.
Moved by Shannon. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Elizabeth Foyt.
Second by Trustee Foyt. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Everybody else, we'll be right back. Please be patient with us, and we'll come right back to you, okay? Thank you very much. Do not go away. Okay, good evening, Fred. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Okay.
Please identify yourself for the record.
Fred James, Deputy Director and CFO.
Welcome.
Thank you. One more last thing to do. Okay, thank you. Tonight, we're presenting the budget with Dr. Ron Heason and myself and Foresto Cobayas.
A little bit louder, please.
We're presenting the budget. Can you hear me better? Okay. Tonight, the budget would be presented by Dr. Ron Heason, myself, Fred James, and Foresto Caballas. We will be going over the budget and in detail. We're going to go as quickly. We realize you've been here quite a long time. We would speed up this little process but we would try to get as much information as we can. Also, after we are done with the budget, we have a couple other things, a VEST program that we can get through and very quickly, and a volunteer furlough action that we would like for you to take a look up and vote upon. Beginning this is our proposal for 2020-21. Our budget strategy for this year is re-engineering for an evolving future. We don't exactly know what that is, but we're hoping that we need to engineer our budget now to make that, to secure our budget for the future. Let's go through some historical background. During the Great Recession, the general fund consolidated sales tax under the current year is expected to drop by as much as 14% from budget in the amount of 3.4 million, from 24.2 million to 20.7 million. That's this year. That matches the downward trend seen during the last recession, bringing revenues to practically 2014 levels. Property tax during the recession dropped to around 10% around 3 straight years due to drop in excess property values, high foreclosure, and remained at that level for 2 years before rising. And then we had to deal with the 3% residential cap and an 8% commercial cap. And there was years that the property tax rose as little as 0 or 0.5% to 1%, and then a couple of percent, and 3% and 4% until just recently. Let's just bring out some differences. The Great Recession, we had a capital project fund we established to be used as a rainy day fund under catastrophic circumstances. There was no shutdown of the economy and high unemployment rate for several years. That was during the recession. Under the current year, fiscal year budget that we're in now, that's going to end on June 30th, 2020. The consolidated, we've already mentioned this, the current year is expected to drop by as much as 15% from budget in the amount of $3.6 million, from $24.2 million to $20.7 million. That is the current year. That is what it was not expected to happen. We were going along until this pandemic hit. We expect to collect all budgeted current year property tax revenue for fiscal year 2019-20 as of $44.9 million. We expect to collect that. We might not be able to get it all for the last 3 months. A lot of people have been unemployed. We might get a portion of it, but it would still be on the books as if we received it on our financial statement, because it would be set up. What we don't get would be set up as a receivable on our books. But let's talk about two different things. One is the budget. This number is 44. We're talking about what is the cash that we're going to get during this fiscal year, that at the end of the fiscal year, that's going to make a difference. If we don't get all of this $44 million, what'll happen is all of the delinquent taxes would be paid and collected in subsequent fiscal years. But the key to everything is cash flow, not what we say what we're budgeting for, but cash flow. Under the budget year going forward for the next fiscal year that we will be filing with the state of Nevada before June 1st, is we have a consolidated sales tax. The budgeted CTX is expected to drop an additional 14.2% of $2.9 million from the estimated current year actual. What we actually think we're going to get for the current fiscal year, 20.7. Now remember, the current year was $24 million, but it's going to be dropping down to 3.7. So we got about $3 million. And then we expect that to drop down to this current fiscal year coming up to $17.8 million. But when we initially got from the state, it was actually $25 million they told us that we could expect from the CTX. We did a calculation. We did some projections on it based on what is happening now, as much information that we could, and we came up with $17.8 million. That's literally almost $8 million less than what the state gave us. And that's all we could do is make a projection. And that's pretty much a drop from what we expect to get this year. Looking at the economy, looking at what's happening, we are expecting to only get $17.8 million, which is a drop from $24 million of this current fiscal year, and a drop from $25 million to 17 on the projected from the state. Property tax, collection of all budgeted current year property tax for 2021 is questionable. Again, the reason why it's questionable is you got all these people that are unemployed. You got the hotels that are practically are not even utilizing their capacity and the number of people that they're allowing to come in. The hotels, the strip is shut down. People do not have jobs. They're out there having to worry about paying their rent and paying their mortgages and feeding their family, health insurance, and etc. Let's just get real about this. The budget amount of $49.3 million is an increase over the current year budget of $4.4 million over the current year budget. That helped cushion some of the downfall in turn in the CTX. That is $1 million, almost $1.4 million increase more than it was the year before in our current year budget. What's going to continue? Expected and continue high employment rate. That is going to be a fact no matter what they do. Let's take a look at how I came up with the consolidated sales tax. In the first column here, this is what we got in the 19, this is what we actually received. In fiscal year 2020, in this current fiscal year, this is what we got up until this yellow column. This is what we got. As you can see, we were actually in the positive in the collection of CTX from July through February. And if you look at February, it was almost exactly the same. And that was when the coronavirus was taking effect and people with a lot less people traveling and etc. Here we are. We projected that March was halfway through and that we're not expecting to get half the money on this. So we came up with a 60% that we expect, another 60% in the month of April. We do not know what March, April, May, and June will be until practically August. So we did an estimate what we think it's going to be, and we came up with $20.7 million is what we use in our calculation and in our projections for the current fiscal year. If you understand where we're going, the current year is dropping by $3.6 million. That's on the CTX. And the following year, we're losing $8.6 million or $8.2 million. And if you add those two amounts, that's almost $11.6, $11.8 million lost in revenues from the month of March 2020 through the end of period, June 30th, 2021. That's how we came up with. And so I took the current year projected amount to calculate what the CTX would be. You can see I said $17.8 million. I estimate that we would probably get 85% of these amounts and the hotels and an environment. And I checked with other reputable forecasters within the state, and my numbers were very consistent with theirs. And I thought my numbers were too low. Our numbers were very compatible. So I feel very comfortable with this particular number. Second thing, Fresto is going to tell you, it's going to go over the budget documentation. I will go over the information regarding the capital project fund. Go right ahead, Fresto.
Okay, thanks, Fred. I'm Floresto Caballas, Assistant Finance Director. For the record, hopefully everyone can hear me all right. I'd like to talk about available resources because although Fred just covered the revenues of the district, which represents the majority of our available resources, you can see that property tax and the consolidated sales tax represents a huge chunk of this pie we're looking at here. But the second largest component of available resources is actually beginning fund balance at 25.8 million. And we have those resources available to move forward and budget and spend for expenditures and the different functions and activities because of the ending fund balance in the prior year. And so we'll cover the importance of both the beginning fund balance and the ending fund balance. Can you advance the slide for me? I don't seem to have control of the presentation. Here we look at the assessed value for the last 10 years, and it's important because it drives property taxes. You can see that we were just bottoming out from the Great Recession around 2013 to 2014, where the revenues stopped declining and plateaued and began increasing all the way until fiscal year 2021, the budget year we're discussing, where the assessed value reached $75 billion, which is an 8% increase from 2020. Fred, if you can go to the slide previously, back to the, I'm sorry, let's go, yes, this slide here. Let's go to the property taxes. You can see that the 10-year chart for the property taxes follows a similar curve, but there's more stagnation between 2013 to 2018, where the plateau appears to last longer. And we are starting to see the increases similar to the increases we saw in assessed value, but they're not as steep of an incline. And that's because of the property tax caps, the 3% cap on residential property and the 8% cap on commercial property. And you can see there isn't, up to the right, we have the numbers for the property taxes, and they hang around in the 30 millions until we get to 2018, where we get into the 40 millions, and we reach $49.3 million in fiscal year 2021. You can go to the next slide, Fred. Here we show a calculation of the property tax rate. It's been the same for years. The general fund is levying a tax rate of approximately 9 cents for every $100 of valuation. And you can see how that punches out when you take that rate applied to about $100,000 in assessed value, yields $32.99 for a property of that value. And that's the gross property tax revenue amount. That doesn't take into account the abatement or the caps that I just mentioned. So that would be reduced based on the 3% and 8% caps. Here's the chart for the consolidated sales tax. And this is the reason we look at the last 10 years. It really gives us an idea of where we've been and where we're going. Since the bottoming of the recession, we've seen pretty steady increases all the way through fiscal year 2019. And we were actually expecting that to continue through 2020 and 2021 until mid-March. As you can see that in 2020, the curve starts to decline again. And Fred's covered this and the significant decrease that we experienced or expecting to experience in the current year, just in the last 3 or 4 months of the current fiscal year. And the decline is even more steep as we get to fiscal year 2021. We show that there's $17.8 million budgeted for the consolidated sales tax, which is a decrease of $6.4 million compared to the previous budget. That number is actually a little higher when looking at, if we compared it to what fiscal year 2021 was originally forecasted based on the state's estimate. It was as much as $25 million. And Fred, again, will go into more detail on that in his 2-year outlook and how that affects the district's budget going forward and how that has an impact on the current year budget and how the budget was prepared this year. Here's how available resources will be used. There's a total of $97.2 million here, made up of $70 million in the general fund. I'll go into that in more detail. The capital projects fund will spend $4.1 million in expenditures. That's a lot lower than what we've expended in the past, and Fred will actually cover that area. And then I'll go through the special revenues, the debt service fund. And again, we like to highlight the ending fund balance at $20.4 million. Because again, going back to when we were talking about available resources, that beginning fund balance can be utilized going forward, whether it's to fund growth or to ensure the district stays resilient in challenging times. And so this ending fund balance we're seeing here becomes the subsequent year's beginning fund balance. Next slide, Fred. General fund is the chief operating account of the district. All activities are assumed to be reported in the general fund unless there's a compelling reason to report those activities in another fund. For example, grant awards are accounted for in our special revenue grant fund. But here, the general fund, we're showing $85.1 million in available resources. And again, the majority of that is property tax and consolidated sales tax. But there also is beginning fund balance of $16.2 million that was carried over from fiscal year 2019. And here's how the available resources will be used in the general fund. There's a total of $85.1 million represented here, and that's made up of expenditures of $70 million, and which leaves an ending fund balance of $15 million. And what's missing here is a transfer. Traditionally, the district, when it's practical or feasible to do so, transfers funds from the general fund to the capital projects fund to fund critical programs there that ensures things like building maintenance, repair, and IT upgrades, along with growth. And those projects, because of the economic environment we're currently in,
If you can speak up a little bit.
Okay, sorry, I'll speak as loudly as I can without yelling into the microphone here. What I was referring to was the transfers that may be noticeably missing here. We had a transfer of as much as $11 million budgeted to go from the general fund to the capital projects fund before, that was just 2 months ago, before we got more information and Fred revised his projections, taking into account the current economic factors. But even with the elimination of the transfers from the general fund to the capital projects fund, we were able to make adjustments to the budget to result in an ending fund balance of $15 million, which is approximately 21% of expenditures. And it's also 18% of all available resources. Here's a breakdown of the expenditures by function. $28.1 million will be spent under program delivery services, which is library operations, the urban branches, the outlying branches, and of course, library operations administration. That's the largest percentage of expenditures for the general fund. And next will be program support services, which represents 35% of all expenditures. And that includes community engagement, branding and marketing, development and planning, and information technology. And lastly, we have administrative support services, which has a budget of $17.4 million for fiscal year 2021. And that function includes general services, financial services, and human resources. Here are the same expenditures by activity. Our largest expenditure happens in salaries and benefits. That amounts to $44.3 million for the year. And that's it shows that it's 63% of all expenditures, which we consider a favorable rate. And that's, we've been able to maintain that consistently over the years, which allows us to also maintain a library materials budget of $10.5 million. The library district's policy is to budget at 15% of total expenditures. So that leaves another $15.3 million that's budgeted for services and supplies. Okay, Fred, I think I have control back now. Here we explain the decreases in the general fund expenditures. Salaries and benefits decreased by $1.5 million and 3.3%. And that was budgeted based on some assumptions that we note here, and that was freezing vacant positions and some other possible concessions in order to reduce salary and maintain health insurance costs at their current level. And the goal with these adjustments was to reduce the budget in order to maintain a sufficient fund balance to get the district through this short term, as Fred will discuss in his budget comparison analysis. Services and supplies decreased by almost $900,000 or 5.5%. I believe that this was already discussed, but that decrease, reduction in the budget in this area came from a staff effort to really comb through all of the essential services and identify those so that any discretionary spending could be adjusted or reduced in order to provide the balanced budget that we were looking for. Library materials increased by $322,000, and that's simply a function of expenditures. As I said, we budget library materials at 15% of total expenditures. Going back to the ending fund balance, I believe I mentioned that we budgeted a $15 million ending fund balance, which is 21% of expenditures. And here's why. Necessary to provide liquidity for cash outflows. Fred covered this, but it's worth emphasizing here that an example would be the property taxes. $49.3 million is due from taxpayers, but their wherewithal to pay those taxes timely is a question. So although we expect to collect all $49 million in property taxes, that may not be received in the upcoming budget year, which affects class cash flows, which is another reason why we maintain an ending fund balance that, again, prepares the district for any economic challenges, including an economic downturn. This is a bullet that's been in our budget presentations for probably decades, even during the economic booms, because as we found, the district's budget's prepared in a fashion to prepare it for these types of economic challenges that we're experiencing currently. Library materials, again, 15% of all expenditures in the general fund, and that amounts to $10.5 million for fiscal year 2021. And the trend here continues for the most part as far as the allocation of the materials budget towards more electronic media and less towards traditional library materials. For example, adult print is down about 4% from the year before versus downloadable ebooks and media, which is higher by 4% in fiscal year 2021. Electronic databases and services is also higher from the prior year, and everything else below, from adult audiovisual to non-traditional items, fluctuated much less and are much more consistent with prior year. But the trend towards more electronic media purchasing is still ongoing. Special revenue funds, this is where anything not accounted for in the general fund is accounted for. And we have two special revenue funds. That is the grant fund, which includes literacy grants received by the district, among others, which amounts to $1.8 million for 2021. And we also have a gift fund with a budget of $800,000 for fiscal year 2021. And we budget these two special revenue funds to basically zero out at the end of the year, $1.8 million coming in and $1.8 million going out. And that's because we need the budget at a higher level than we expect to actually spend, because without doing that, if we were to be awarded grants or receive donations that we didn't expect, we wouldn't be able to spend that money if the budget was too low. But they're budgeted to go high to account for that and to zero out at the end of the year. The debt service fund, this accounts for long-term debt, payment of principal and interest, for example, and we have no current long-term debt because the last payment was made back in January 2019 for a $15 million general obligation medium-term bond that funded construction of the Windmill Library and Service Center. And I'll turn it back over to Fred to discuss the capital projects fund.
Thank you, Foresto. The capital project funds account for the acquisition, replacement, and construction of major capital projects and facilities. We, over the last few years, have, we are projected at $8.6 million projected available resources at the beginning of the fiscal year. And this is where the breakdowns are. And I want you to notice that we are down to $8.6 million because we cannot transfer any money into this fund going into the next fiscal year. And this is where we start out with. And you'll notice that for some of the programs, we're at zero, but technology replacement and upgrades, that's the software, that's the information upgrades that we need to keep in our software. And this at $3.4 million. Building and repair and maintenance, that is for the buildings, that's for the repairs, that's for general services to go out and maintain our buildings. It costs money to do that. And that's at $3.8 million. Capital construction, because of the downturns in the revenue, we are no longer able to do renovations. That is gone, it is over, at least for 2 years. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Fred, can you tell them how much the most recent HVAC replacement was?
An HVAC system on the building replacement, it can be as much as $300,000 to $400,000 just by itself. And as the buildings are older and they're getting older, we need to have more cash to keep these buildings up. The more money we spend right now on these buildings, the less money we have to spend on in them in the future. As I said, capital construction does not have any money. We do have a vehicle replacement, some money for $300,000. That is to make sure that we have enough cash, and we're not increasing it. So we have to have cash in to replace and repair if we have to. Library materials is only when we are building new libraries areas, we put money in there to furnish that item. Furniture purchase and replacement, $300,000. That is to replace any broken furniture, damaged, or whatever over the whole library district. That's all we have. Financial services, $300,000. That's what we use to replace copiers, staff copiers all over the buildings. Not only staff copiers, public copiers that the people use in each of the branches. Also, we have cash register. That's where it comes from out of our budget. Programming revenues and venues. That's one of our fears, our meeting rooms. We have speakers, telephone, furnishings, and curtains and stages that have to be repaired or maintained. That's all we have for the next couple of years in the beginning. And then next year, we're going to spend half of that. And most of that expended is going to be expended from the technology replacement and upgrade of $1.8 million. Building and repair is going to drop down to $1.4 million. Capital construction, as I say, there are no expenditures. Vehicle purchase and replacement is a $500,000. $500,000. Sorry, look like $50,000. Library materials, nothing. Furniture and replacement, $50,000. Financial services, we still have 300. Program and venues is $500,000. And our remaining fund balance would be $4.5 million. And that is reserved to cover any capital project fund expenditures in the future years. But let me tell you, next year, the year after this budget, we spend the last dime that we have and we are down to zero. Here's what I'm going to show you on the capital project fund transfer, where we used to be able to transfer, but this year we would not be able to transfer any cash. As I told you, we had $8.5 million to start out with. There are no transfers going in for 2021. We have budgeted revenues of $50,000. And as you know, the interest rates are not going up. So if we get 50,000, we are fortunate. But with the fact money going into the fund and coming out, we're lucky to keep a high enough balance to even get a substantial amount of money. Here's the total available for the year is $8.6 million rounded. Here are the transfers that we transferred from out of the capital construction fund to keep the other programs, our normal, everyday maintenance and replacement repairs and software purchases in the two most important departments to work. And that is technology replacement upgrade and building repair and maintenance. And to get the ending fund balance that we need to be able to maintain that. These are the budget expenditures for each one of these. And you can see that the majority of the expenditures are in technology replacement and building and repair. And then vehicle repurchase, we're spending about $50,000. And then the same in furniture purchases. And then obviously financial services, we budget for it to make sure that we are able to spend the money if we need to buy new staff copiers and our public copiers, our cash registers. Community engagement, we also have budgeted, and the same reason, so that they have enough cash to be able to do what they're to do in their area, to be able to maintain their equipment. Just to give you an idea, the light bulbs in the theaters, if I remember correctly, someone can correct me, but I remember it's $10,000 for a light bulb that they use for the projection for the projection that we use in the windmill library. You can see that the money that we use, we have nothing. We transfer all of the money from capital construction to be able to service these programs because we have no more money coming in. And as you can see, these are the balances in these accounts that we project that will be at the end of 6/30/2021. We expect $4.5 million, and that money would be used up in the following fiscal year. Okay, budget analysis. Let's go through the budget analysis, and that just show where we are. Actual 2018-19, in this column, we had $68 million revenue, and we spent it 62.9. We had a $5.6 million excess revenues over expenditures, and we transferred out $6.2 million to go into the capital project. Where the money comes from for the capital project programs, it comes from the general fund. If we don't get money from the general fund, we have no cash for the capital projects fund and for the maintenance of all the programs. And if we didn't have any money in the capital project funds to take care of all of the maintenance, then it's going to come from the general fund. And that means that $4 and $5 and $6 million that we spend every year will have to come and reduce down our budgets. It will have to be coming from somewhere. And it means that most likely it's going to come from personnel and staffing costs. And so in this area, we have a deficit over revenues over expenditures, and it brought down our ending fund balance to $14.5 million. We budgeted for 2019, the current year budget that we're in, $71 million. That's what we budgeted. We expenditure $72.794 million. We still were going to be expending $1.49 million. We had projected that we would spend $6 million and transfer it into the capital project. Well, that didn't happen. We actually had excess deficiencies over $14 million, and we brought down our ending fund balance. Let's get something straight. This column is actual. This is our financial statement. This is the number that we need to keep around within our financial statement so that we don't be taken over or put on notice by the state of Nevada that we don't have enough ending fund balance to maintain our operation. This is what we budgeted. The budget is not the financial statement. These are actual numbers. These are budgeted numbers. And this is what we say in the estimated column. This is where we said that we had a reduction in revenues. This is part of the reduction in revenues right here. This is what we said that we had a reduction in expenditures. Well, most of the expenditures come because we're not working in an operation for almost since mid-March. And so we're going to have savings there. Well, because of that, we don't have $6 million to transfer over. We have $3 million to help pay for some of the expenditures that we have. If you notice, $3 million is going to the capital project fund. If you knock out that $3 million, then we don't have, that means we have, instead of $8 million, we have $5 million. And that means most likely those funds will be used up in the next fiscal year. And then that money will have to come out of the final budget for the following year. This is what we have to do. Second thing, we have excess deficiency of we have excess revenues over expenditures. It also increases up our fund balance, but there is no expectation that we would meet this. We need this high fund just in case the revenues come in lower than what we expect. Here's our tentative budget that we sent to the state of Nevada. We thought we were going to get in $77.2 million. That did not happen. We were looking at funding a $73.15 million budget. We thought that we would be able to transfer out $11 million. This budget had in raises of 3% and cost of living of 3% and increase for healthcare costs. Well, guess what? We asked when we found out that we weren't getting this, that we wouldn't be able to transfer cash in. We asked, hey, we don't want to lay off people. We're cutting the budget. We did an extensive item by item in the service and supply budget. We went through that service and supply budget with a fine-tooth comb, and every department and every EC member came up with some cuts that we could live with. And that's what we did. So here we go. So we budget because if we don't get this number, we don't transfer the amount of money. If we don't get this number, that transfer doesn't happen. So we go to the final budget that we're sending to the state. We had to drop down from $77.2 million to 68 point. That's almost $8.3 million. And then we dropped our expenditures down, and then we're going into a deficit because we're going to reduce our ending fund balance. So we're going to go and reduce our ending fund balance, beginning at what we projected to be at 16.204. Hopefully that comes in. We dropped it down to 1509, and that's 21%. That's what we're going to submit. However, there's an impact of this year's budget, the next year's budget onto next year. And that's the projected year budget. We're going to have to say, we don't expect revenues to go up anymore. We expect property tax to remain level for the next 2 years. We don't think that the assessor valuation, the assessor office is going to increase the revenues. If there's any revenue increase, it's going to come from the abatement, and that's it. Because you could increase, if you have any abatement in your property tax, that's the only place that it's going to come. So if they go down some, you may not get that abatement. If they keep it in there, then we'll probably get a small amount of increase, maybe not. I'm not betting on it. Expenditures, we're going to match expenditures to what they are, and we're not making any transfers in the final 2020 budget the 2021 budget, nor in the next fiscal year that we're projecting to do any budget. And that means at the end of this projected year, we have no cash in the capital project fund. And where's that cash going to come from? If we need to do those capital project fund, it's going to come from the general fund, etc. So here we are. We're down to the fund balance that we project. We're hoping to maintain a fund balance of 15 million for the next 2 consecutive years. That's where we stand. Here's a copy of the budget that we're submitting to the state. I want you to notice we submitted a budget tentative of $49.3 million. Here's what we submitted at $25.5 million. We had charges for services. We had forfeits of 900, and we thought that we're going to be getting $77.2 million. Well, after the pandemic crisis, we said, oh, we think we're going to still get about the $49.3 million. However, cash flow is still a problem. We might be on the books that we'll get $49 million, but we will probably would get just portion of cash. And if we get less than that $49 million, which I know we probably will, then it's going to have an effect on how much revenue that we have. It's the cash. It's the cash. Regardless of what this number is, we have to have a high enough number in our ending fund balance to be able to accept, to be able to account for what the amount of money that we're going to get in cash. So this is our budget. We're down to 68.9. If you notice, that's where that number is. And then we got expenditures of 77 million. And the same thing here, we made a drop in our salaries and benefits. We made a benefits analysis adjustments, services and supplies. We made some adjustment. These adjustments were after the fact. So these adjustments that we were making it to the budget and the capital outlay. And then here's our budget accounted for. Notice, we thought we were going to transfer $11 million. That is not going to happen. We're going to be able to transfer nothing for the next final year. Okay, cost reduction measures. We were streamlining the budget to maintain expenditures at a same level as expected revenue over the next 2 to 3 years, if we had to. We were setting up a voluntary employee separation program. We'll talk about that in more detail. We're talking about a voluntary furlough program. We will talk about that in more detail. We have frozen vacant positions that were vacant. And if any position become vacant, we will freeze that position too. No annual pay increases. That's a question mark. That was something that we've talked about. We'll have to do that. No merit raises. We talked about that. That's what we were asking. We don't know what we're going to get, but we know what we got back from the union on what their counter offer to us on these 3 items. No annual pay increase, no merit raises, no increase in healthcare. And that was done so that we did not have to lay off or cut positions. Okay? We'll go on and further. That's what we have to do. That's what we're asking. Okay, do we have any questions?
Thank you, Fred. Let me go down the list here. This is a public hearing. Trustee Raymaker, did you have any questions, comments on this budget?
Well, you know, it's going to be tight. And just one comment, you know, we're hoping to get the property tax. And we've already warned out here in Mesquite, people are already asking for deferment. And for us to start thinking about, we're not getting the property tax that we're expecting.
Excuse me, somebody need to shut off their speaker, please. I can't hear.
Go ahead, Trustee Raymaker.
What I was saying is we've already been told here in Mesquite to not even expect the property tax to, you know, start thinking even less on the property tax because people are already asking for deferments on the property tax. So it's really scary, but I love the way you've worked it over, and I know it's going to be tight, and I appreciate all the work everybody's done on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, did you have any questions or comments for the director? Or Chief Financial Officer?
No, I think given the assumptions that he shared to construct the budget, I think they did an outstanding job.
Thank you very much. Trustee Marilyn Francis Drake, do you have any questions for the Chief Financial Officer or for the director?
No, just a big thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Elizabeth Foyt, do you have any questions or comments?
It's not a great picture to look at, but no, I don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vice Chair Shannon Bilbrey Axelrod, did you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I do have to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate the work you have done on this, Mr. James, and I know looking at the state budget, how I wish the state was had someone like a leader like you who had really been able to steer us through and make sure that we made it through the recession. And I just appreciate your fiscal responsibility, knowing that things are uncertain. And I can't stress enough how much I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Trustee Kelly Benavides, do you have any questions or comments for the Financial Officer?
No, just no questions. Just I concur with Trustee Bilbray. I'm looking at other fiscal responsibilities, and I mean, we're doing some amazing work with the library compared to what we're looking at in other entities. So thank you, Fred. Definitely, it's all under your leadership. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Trustee Jose Luis Melendres.
Just saying for me, I mean, it's a tough situation, and Fred, you've done an outstanding job as always in guiding us and giving your best recommendations to this. So, you know, we're gonna have to make some tough choices, but thank you for your work.
Thank you very much. Trustee Brian Wilson.
Just, thank you, Fred, for laying this out. I mean, it's been very clear to me, and I think this really illustrates it's going to be 2 years from now, we're going to be out of money. And the actions that are taking now, we're still going to run out of money in that ending balance in 2 years. So thank you for putting in the work to find every penny you could, Fred.
Thank you very much. Trustee Robin Wadley Munier, do you have any questions or comments?
At this time, but I can tell, and I so much appreciate Fred and Floresto, all your hard efforts and work and working the numbers and continually working the numbers and researching data. And I'm concerned that it might even be worse than what your predictions are. I certainly hope not, but your passion for always leading us through the right fiduciary responsibilities and all, Fred, is so duly noted. And I have empathy for you, and I can tell in your voice that you really hate delivering this. And I just so much appreciate you as a board member and as a citizen of the Valley, all that you have done, and Floresto, and thank you just seems so inadequate.
Thank you very much. As a chair, first of all, these are numbers, but it's about people that work for us and people that we serve. And if you only have $1, that's all you can spend is $1. So we have to figure out how we split that dollar. In this case, the 70-some million, and quickly going down because of circumstances that are beyond our control. We really need everybody's help, everybody's understanding that we're all in this together. I'm sure you heard that term over and over, but we really are in this together. And the only way to survive this, just like we did in 2008, 2009, 11, and 12, was to really talk to each other, look at what's going on, and really assess how we can survive this without losing a lot of our staff, without losing our services to our community, our commitment to our community. And so it's a testament. We really do think about it, and it's hard. It really is hard. And it's hard for the end user. It's hard for the employee. It's hard for the director. It's hard for the chief financial officer. But decisions have to be made, and they're not easy ones. That's why they task us with making those decisions. Having said that, this was a public hearing on the Las Vegas Clark County Library District tentative budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 under Nevada revised statutes. Now I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Somebody make a motion to close the public hearing?
I so move.
So moved.
Trustee Rogers, second by Robin Wadley. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Aye.
Everybody's an aye. Thank you. Aye. All right. Now back from the public hearing to discussion from possible board action to adopt the Clark County Library, Las Vegas Clark County Library District final budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. And so the tentative budget was filed with the state of Nevada Department of Taxation on April 15th, 2020. And it requires that the final budget, as was presented in this public hearing, be adopted by this governing body and transmitted to the state of Nevada Department of Taxation before June 1st. And so with that, somebody have the motion in front of them? Would somebody like to make the motion to approve this budget, to adopt this budget?
I'll make the motion. Jose.
Please proceed.
Motion to adopt the final Las Vegas Clark County Library District's fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, subject to any modifications as directed by trustees, and instruct staff to adjust estimated fiscal year 2020-2021 revenues in accordance with final estimates from the Department of Taxation, provided such estimates are received in sufficient time for staff to make adjustments by June 1st, 2020 filing date.
Thank you very much. Second on that motion.
Second it.
And Ray Maker seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries to adopt the final Las Vegas Clark County Library District fiscal year 2020, 2021 budget. Thank you very much. Now,
Chair Ortiz, before you move on to the next item, this is Allison Boyer. Fred's probably right behind me. There is a transmittal letter, and we are going to send that around via DocuSign. You just have to sign, and it's something we do every year to sign and approve the budget, just showing that you approved it. I will be sending that out tonight. If everybody could, all the trustees, please sign that. You'll just do it automatically, digitally, and we'll be able to get that taken care of. Thank you.
thank you very much. That means the trustees sign that this is true and accurate. That's where they hold us liable. Thank you very much, Ellison. The next item on the agenda is discussion and possible board action to offer a voluntary employment separation plan, VSP, to qualified staff. Fred, will you do the presentation? Or Ron, do you want to start off? Director Hazine?
Got this one. I'll let him carry it.
Okay, Fred?
Okay, thank you. Once again, as a part of a cost reduction program for long-term effect, we're going to talk about a voluntary employee separation program that we like to present to the employees, and it'll be effective during the summer. This will, every position that is accepted, we expect it for it to pay for itself for the whole fiscal year, or we cut the position. And so this is a way that we can start reducing positions down to meet what our budget needs are going to be for the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you very much. Trustee Robin Waddy-Munier, did you have any questions on the voluntary separation plan?
Just before, I can tell you what's in the program if you like for me to.
Oh, I am so sorry. Please present the program. Sorry.
These are cost reduction measures due to the unexpected decline in revenue and challenging the economic condition. We are proposing options to reduce the cost while maintaining essential services. So we're doing a voluntary employee separation program and a voluntary furlough program. And what's in this VEST program? We were offering employees payment to voluntarily separate based on years of service, allow employees to voluntarily leave employment by resignation or retirement. Employees will have the right to participate or not. District will not anticipate any given employee participation. Available to all eligible employees. And what our eligible district employees must be currently employed for a minimum of 5 years with the district and vested in PERS. Must be serving in a permanent position. Current part-time employees who are vested in PERS are eligible. Best payments, a lump sum payment, 1 full week of compensation based on a full-time equivalent status for each year of service. Employees can elect to have their district purchase PERS service credits on their behalf up to the lump sum payment or less per PERS policy. We're offering up to 18 months of COBRA health insurance with Teamster 14. Employees are not eligible for rehire for 36 months from the day of separation. Sorry for the misspell. Application process accepted from June 5th through July 15th. Must submit an application to the HR department, provide a copy to their respective department head. If accepted, must separate by September the 4th, 2020. This date can be extended for applicant of critical positions at the discretion of the executive director. Position must be vacant until the cost of the position is recovered. Positions can be filled by employees from lower level, but that position must remain vacant to a future date, or it can be eliminated for basically to reduce our staffing level. Reduction in staffing level and higher salaries results in permanent savings. Okay. That was your best program.
Thank you very much. Trustee Robin Wadley Munier, did you have any questions or comments?
Just a comment. I think that's a very well put together program and is very fair. And I appreciate the efforts to do that. And I will be in support.
Thank you very much. Trustee Brian Wilson, did you have any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Trustee Jose Luis Melendres.
None at this time.
I'm sorry, please repeat.
No, none at this time.
Thank you very much. Trustee Kelly Benavides.
Fred, if there's any way you can go back to page 6.
I'm sorry, please repeat the question.
Thank you, Fred. I just asked back to page 6. Now, my concern is can you hear me? Sounds like a lot of feedback.
Go ahead, Kelly.
On when we're looking at positions must be vacant until the cost of position is recovered. I mean, what are we going to look like once we have all these, depending on how many people take advantage of this process, which I think if I was an employee of the library and qualified, I'd be the first one to jump on it. But what are we going to look like? I mean, are we going to end up with, a skeleton of libraries because all our employees are taking benefits to this, and now we end up with I don't know the number of employees. Are we going to be able to function?
There should be no issue with functioning. Basically, we're phasing our services back in, and each phase has less services than what we had as of May 15th. So if we find that a position has been eliminated and it's critical, then we'll fill it with a newbie who would be paid less than the person who'd had it for several years.
Thank you very much, Trustee.
My follow-up question. Do we have an estimate of how many people would qualify to take advantage of this?
Yes, we do. Fred, you actually have that list that had how many people on that list?
Between part-time and full-time is approximately 140 people that's eligible to take it, but not all of them can take it because they might be 60 years old, but they don't have enough years in, or they might be 56 years old, but they don't have 30 years in, and they're reluctant to give up those years. So there are people who are 65 or 63 years old who are Medicare eligible in 2 years that can probably take this program. There are people that might decide, hey, I can get another job, or I'm just tired, I want to leave, I don't want to expose myself. There's going to be a number of people that will be able to take it of that eligible. We're only thinking about 30 people that are probably most likely take this out of the 139 people that will take
Very
it.
much. Trustee Benavides, any more questions?
That's going to be it. Thank you.
Very much. Trustee Shannon Bilberry Axelrod.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Elizabeth Foyt.
I was curious about how we came up with the number of months for Cobra. Cobra's expensive.
Cobra is that's a federal requirement that when you leave.
I know what Cobra is, but is it always an 18-month period?
Yes, it is. I was trying to get 24 months to get more, to entice more people
Go
in.
directly into PERS. If they go into a PERS retirement,
I don't think we're eligible for PERS retirement anymore. There used to be
PERS
it used to be
retirement
years ago.
insurance, you mean? Yeah, the cover, okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, we're not eligible for a retirement in health insurance in PERS.
You mean PERS retirement with the benefit of having the insurance?
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Trustee Marilyn Francis Drake, did you have any questions or comments?
No, Kelly took my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rogers, did you have any questions or comments on this furlough? Voluntary
No questions
separation.
at this time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rogers. Trustee Raymaker, did you have any questions on this voluntary separation program?
No questions. We just offered something similar to this out here.
Thank you very much. I just have a very quick comment. For our employees that are online listening, if you want to discuss this, don't ask somebody that's never been retired. Ask somebody that's been retired. They can tell you how this process is. I struggled with this in 2012. And at the end of the day, I did retire from the U.S. government. And the difference for me staying and taking on the continued grief was about $200 a month. Well, guess what happened? There was life after policing, life after probation. I got my health back. I lost 30 pounds. I feel better than ever. Half the staff was on Xanax and the other staff was on blood pressure medication. So your health, your life, nobody's forcing you to do anything. You don't even have to look at this. But if for some reason some of you are qualified and you decide to do it, now's the opportunity. Having said that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the voluntary employee separation plan for qualified staff.
Trustee Wilson.
Trustee Wilson, go ahead.
Motion to approve the establishment of a voluntary employee separation plan and take other appropriate to affect that plan.
May I have a second?
Second by who?
Second by Jose Luis Melendez. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Motion carries. Good luck. If you get one, that's great. If you don't get any, that's okay too. We move forward. But it's an opportunity to take advantage of.
Okay, now the next one is okay, I'm sorry, you have to introduce the next item.
Thank you very much. Are we on furloughs? I don't see that on my agenda. Discussion for possible action on voluntary furloughs. Go ahead.
Okay, we're offering a voluntary program. The executive director may allow unpaid voluntary unpaid voluntary furlough leave in 30-day increments, which may be extended depending on operational needs. The employee would be notified at least 1 week in advance whether to return to work or that their furlough has been extended. Employees are not required to take a voluntary furlough hours. Voluntary furlough hours are not PERS compensationable. Employees will not receive PERS service credit during the period of voluntary furlough. Voluntary furlough requests must be approved by the employee's department head. Employees will not receive a salary, hourly compensation, or special pay during periods of voluntary furlough. A voluntary furlough will have no effect on the following: performance evaluation, merit increases, or annual pay increases, longevity, anniversary, or seniority dates, vacation and sick leave accruals during the voluntary furlough period, or holiday eligibility. A voluntary furlough will not constitute a break in service. At the expiration of the voluntary furlough, the employee will return to work to the position held prior to the voluntary furlough. The district will pay the employer portion. The district will pay the employer portion of all insurance contribution during the voluntary furlough period. Employees may request the use of voluntary furlough in conjunction with the Family Medical Leave Act. The district will continue paying the following benefits: medical, vision, dental insurance, long-term care, voluntary, etc. insurance, voluntary employee, spouse, and dependent life insurance, district life insurance, district dependent life insurance, district employee accidental death and dismemberment insurance, AFLAC insurance products, and bonus hours paid on the furlough effective date. The district will not pay below listed employees' benefit where applicable: contribution to PERS, and if affected on years of service, flexible spending counts, accrual of vacation, sick, and longevity, or seniority accrual. Any questions?
Thank you very much. This is also an opportunity program. So let me go down the list here. Trustee Benavides, do you have any questions or comments?
Not at this time, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Shannon, Vice Chair Shannon Bilbray, do you have any questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Jose Luis Melendez, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Trustee Wilson, do you have any questions or comments? No. Trustee Elizabeth Foy, do you have any questions or comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
Trustee Sandra Raymaker, do you have any questions or comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
Trustee Marilyn Francis Drake, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Trustee Robin Wadley Meunier, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just another big thank you for the staff and their work.
Thank you. And the only comment I have is that this has created a lot of stress for a lot of individuals, real or unreal. We're not here to judge, but if individuals feel like they're quite not ready to return to work, this is an opportunity for them to take advantage of it, given what the federal government is adding to the unemployment benefits. So it's also available. Having said that, I'll entertain a motion to approve our voluntary furlough program. Somebody make the motion?
Trustee Wilson, motion to approve the voluntary furlough program.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the voluntary furlough program. Move to second.
I'll second.
Second by Elizabeth Floyd. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right. And our next item is discussion and possible board action regarding the district's labor agreements with Teamsters 14. Our Chief Financial Officer or Scott Abbott going to do the presentation?
This is Scott Abbott. I am outside HR counsel for the library district. Up on this agenda item for tonight is the current concessions status and proposal that has been offered by Teamsters Local 14. That proposal, which is for your consideration and possible action tonight, is for the represented employees of the district to forego their annual pay plan increase, otherwise known as a cost of living increase of 3%, effective July 1st of this year, and to freeze the current health insurance premium rates of the Teamsters Security Fund at the 2019-2020 current rates, with no increase for 2020 to 2021. However, the concessions proposal that has been offered for your consideration by the union does require that the district meet its obligation under the collective bargaining agreement to pay represented employees their 3% merit increase.
Okay.
Right now, as it stands, as of July 1st, the district would be obligated in all three respects to pay a 3% annual pay increase, a 3% merit increase, and to accept roughly an 8 to 9% increase in insurance premiums for represented employees. What the union has proposed is, of those three elements, they are willing to agree to forego the 3% pay plan increase and freeze the health insurance. But they are standing firm on wanting their 3% merit increase. And so what's up for your discussion and possible action tonight is whether you want to accept that concessions proposal by the union, or if you want to reject that concessions proposal. If you accept the concessions proposal, as I've just outlined, the union has been made aware that there will still need to be staff layoffs to account for the inability to forego the 3% merit increases. The cost of those merit increases would necessarily have to be offset by staff cuts in the form of layoffs.
Okay, so is there anything else from our Chief Financial Officer?
No further comments.
Okay. So we have in front of us a discussion for possible board action to discuss regarding the district's labor agreements with Teamsters 14. So big item, very important item. Let's go down the list here. Trustee Raymaker, did you have any questions or comments?
I'm not gonna, nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Rogers, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Okay. Trustee Marilyn Francis, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Thank you very much. Trustee Elizabeth Foyt, did you have any questions or comments?
No, but thank you.
Trustee Shannon Bill Axelrod, did you have any questions or comments?
Thank you. Chair. This is going to be a tough one for me because I have a tremendous amount of respect for unions and our union contracts, and I get that we came in good faith, and I appreciate them giving 2 items. It just my heart to think that some people are going to lose their job in order to get that 3% merit pay. I mean, ultimately, I'm leaning towards the side that I will vote for it, but I just really would like to put on the record that I don't feel like it needed to be this way. I think that we're all in this together, and I think we could have been, I don't know, a little bit more thoughtful, and it just breaks my heart to think that some people are going to lose their jobs while some people get a 3% merit increase. So that being said, I understand we have a union contract, and I probably will end up voting for this, but I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you very much. Trustee Kelly Benavides.
I concur with Trustee Bilber. I just feel we're kind of in a really hard place, and with what we've been presented, kind of the worst, the best of both evils kind of thing. So I'm not feeling comfortable about this vote either. And if I could abstain for any reason, I would. Unfortunately, I know I can't, but this is obviously what we're called to do, right, as trustees, to make some of these hard decisions. But it doesn't sit well with me, and I just want to make that clear to our employees that this is not a vote that I'm comfortable making.
Thank you very much. Trustee Robin Wadley Meunier.
Well, I have to say that for the most part, I'm concurring with the former 2 trustees in their comments, except that I have a lot of empathy for the employees that if this passes will be laid off, because other union employees do not have empathy for them. And I have a real problem with voting for this, because it's our fiduciary responsibility. And even though this was the contract, a worldwide pandemic, I think, supersedes a union contract or any kind of a contract that one has. The casinos, everybody, is losing money coming and going from their investments, through their IRAs, through their insurance policies, through anything that they have already. And then we're going to be asking having to tell some employees they're losing their jobs as well. And that just doesn't sit well with me when other members of the same union and their brothers and sisters could wait a year to get a merit raise. We know they're good employees. We value our employees. We love our employees in our own special way. But this just doesn't sit well with me. So that's my comment.
Thank you very much. Trustee Brian Wilson.
This is what I was fighting so hard for a month ago to avoid being put in this position. It's unconscionable to me to vote to give a raise. Yes, I know it's a contractual raise we agreed to, but we're talking about a global recession, and we're going to ask the taxpayer, the private citizen, to carry the cost of funding a raise to one group of employees at the cost of cutting off the heads of their coworkers. It's nauseating to me. It's disgusting to me. We had a solution to avoid this position through temporary furloughs where everybody kept their job, and now we're in this horrible position. And I don't know when it comes down to a vote that I can vote to give a raise under this economic condition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of comments, so please follow my train of thought, and let me apologize that it might be lengthy, but not too lengthy. I was a union vice president for a 2,000 social worker union. AFL-CIO asked me, I negotiated a contract, so I am a union person. Having said that, our staff already got a raise. They got paid for 75 days to be home. May I repeat that? And may I remind you, for those listening, you got paid to be home for 75 days. We took off the table to furlough you and send you to apply with the other 300,000 people trying to get through the Dieter unemployment office. Okay? And so you haven't been to work, you've been paid. So to me, the union, I don't know whether they considered it or not, but that's a substantial pay raise right there. Secondly, we have a fiduciary duty to balance a budget. And we also have a responsibility, because under the way the contract is, that the employees are supposed to get a raise. However, to achieve that, achieve the request of the union, then we would have to say, okay, we've already counted for the 71 million, maybe, and going down. If we give everybody a raise, where's it going to come from? Well, it's going to come from the union members. It's going to come from letting go, getting rid of, firing, laying off, whatever term you want to call it, discharge, it's all the same, other employees. So it's about picking winners and losers. And it's just, my blood pressure's through the roof. I don't like to do that. I thought we would be better served having everybody together try to get through this. And so, but clearly that's not the expectation, and that's not what's being asked of us here today per the union contract. I don't blame them. I was a union person. I understand it, but I think they missed the big picture. And so that's where we're at right now. And that's where we have to put on our big boy pants and our big girl pants and make those decisions that are really hard, because whatever we decide tonight is going to impact us this year and next year. There's 25 to 30% unemployment. The C-tax has gone down by 98, 94%. That means there's less and less money coming through. Tourism is at its worst. We're not a different state. We're Nevada. We're dependent on tourism for the taxes, the car rentals, the hotel rentals. And so I'm a very fiscal conservative individual, and I don't see this getting better for at least 2 or 3 years. And so why do we have an ending balance? Let me repeat that. Why do we have an ending balance? Because at the end of the day, for those employees that continue with us, we have to be able to pay their checks. If something were to go wrong, we have to pay our commitment to them and to their PERS, their medical, unemployment, all of that. That's why there's an ending balance. It's not an ending balance to rate it so that it can be used for a different purpose. But having said all that, we still have one more option, and I'd like to bring that to the table before we vote on this one. I'd like to make a motion to recall the vote that we had on the furlough. That is my motion. And I'll entertain a second on that motion.
This is Shannon. I will second that. If we could you explain what that is? Or I guess we'll bring it up as a topic of conversation, but I do second that.
Thank you very much. So at our last meeting, we voted not to furlough anybody. We voted to give you 75 days of pay without working. And so now, to bring it back, it has to be a person that voted against it, and I voted against it. So that's the motion, to bring it back. Then we vote on offering or giving the library director and the CFO the opportunity to furlough. Now, if we furlough, if that first motion passes, if the second motion passes, it's starting to sound like politicians back east, right? First motion passes, second motion passes, then that gives us more options to furlough some people. They still get a check from unemployment. And then it reduces our liability so that we don't have to lay off people, and also gives us an opportunity to look at giving those raises, furloughing people, and not getting rid of people, not laying off people. Clear as mud? And so that's the reason for the motion. So there is a motion on the floor. I made a motion to allow the vote to be recalled for consideration for furloughs. There's a second by Shannon. Any questions from anybody? That's the first motion. There's two motions.
And so just to clarify, this first vote is just bringing back for discussion, not actually furloughing at this point. We're just reopening the discussion.
Right. And the second vote is not to furlough, but to give the library district the opportunity to furlough if it so happens to be a better financial position. Right? So we'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Dr. Rogers is not. Is there anybody opposed? Okay, so we're calling back, to call back the question that was voted down. So now I have a motion. My motion is to allow the library district to have in their toolbox as an option furloughs of staff as we see fit. That doesn't mean, so we're clear for those people that are listening, we're not furloughing you, but it allows us an option to go that route so we don't have to permanently lay off our staff to give our members, our union members, a 3% raise. So I'd like to make a motion to allow the district to have as an option furlough for the employees, should we need to do that in order to prevent layoffs, because we've had to pay out a raise. It doesn't mean we're giving the raise. That's a different motion. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
Second, Shannon.
Second by Shannon. Any discussion, questions on the motion? Jerry, did I say this correctly?
Yes, sir.
Anybody from the board would like to? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. So the first motion passed was to bring it back because it had been voted down. The second motion was got voted in to allow the district to have that in their toolbox, the opportunity to furlough people. Now, thank you very much. Back to the agenda item. This was covered under HR issues and agendized under new business. And so our last item, we have a discussion for possible board action regarding the district's labor agreements with the Teamsters. We had a presentation earlier by Mr. Grant Davis. I'm sorry, Mr. Grant Davis, asking that the union members get their 3% raise and forgo other items. The district union members and forgo a couple of other items. And so that is the labor agreement. Scott, is there anything else that I need to say? Okay, so we'll go around the table one more time. Robin Wadley-Meunier, did you have any questions or comments on the labor agreements with Teamsters 14?
I didn't, but I thought you were going to have some discussion on the previous motion that you made, because I did have some questions on that as to how we would determine that would work, but.
That would be, thank you very much. As a follow-up question, that was left up to the CFO and the director and the staff once they determine what the cost is. I think that's the nuts and bolts of it, beyond our capacity at this point. I don't know if that satisfies you for an answer.
As long as that's in the record, yes. I just want something so that we as a group voting for it and the director and staff and the employees know clearly what it was, or is, I should say. That's all.
Very much.
Just clarification.
Thank you. Trustee Robin Lay, back to the
No,
district.
I have none on this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wilson, do you have any questions or comments?
None on this.
Okay. Trustee Jose Luis Melendez, do you have any questions or comments on the agreement with the Teamsters 14 labor agreement?
No, no.
Okay. Trustee Benavides, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Vice Chair Shannon Bilberry Axelrod, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Thank you very much. Trustee Foyt, do you have any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Trustee Merlin Francis Drake, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not.
Thank you. Trustee Raymaker, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Want to ask?
Go ahead, Trustee Wilson.
What is the deadline that this has to be agreed to by the union again? I forgot the date that we're under to agreed to before their raises kick in.
Scott?
I can't hear him.
The question is, what is the deadline to, if this is voted in, what is the deadline to have this agreement with the district's labor Teamsters 14?
In response to that, the union has attempted to provide a tentative date given the current circumstances of the pandemic, but they're anticipating a vote by June 1st.
What I'm asking is if they don't act by June 1st, for example, when does everything automatically kick in per the contract if they don't move on it or vote on it? When's the automatic drop dead date that this has to be done and over with by?
The contract begins on.
I would defer to Mr. James on that, but the terms of the existing contract take effect in July because that's the start of your fiscal year. So as of July 1st, so my thought on this would be as long as it is approved and ratified prior to July 1st, that should be fine, but I would defer to Mr. James on that.
Did everybody, can you hear me? Are we down on WebEx? Allison?
We can hear you, just can't see you.
I think we're going to lose WebEx here in a minute.
No, we're back.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, it's the cameras in the boardroom.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alice. I'm not hearing anybody now.
I can hear you.
Good.
No one's talking.
Oh, okay. What do we? I can hear Shannon.
Okay, we're trying to get WebEx back online. Please be patient.
Your audio should be back at least.
Your audio's still working. Let's go move forward.
Shannon, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Trustee Melendez, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Hey, WebEx, where are we?
No.
I have a mesh Wi-Fi system in the house. And I have I'm sending hundreds of data stop all the time. So it's
Okay, you should be back up at least with audio at least.
Any way we can continue without the video? We're almost done.
oh,
With you, Kelly.
We're just waiting for the process to start up again.
Felipe, are you guys still?
Shannon, where's your pretty couch?
I set up a Zoom corner so I could leave my family alone, or they could leave me alone.
Do we lose audio to the boardroom?
I think we're back. Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Move forward. We can hear you.
I don't think I see Robin on the list.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right. There we are. I think we're back. Call back to order May 21st, 2020. Last agenda item, discussion for possible board action regarding the district's labor agreements with Teamster 14. Please mute your microphones for right now. And so this motion, Trustee Elizabeth Foy, did you have a question or comment?
I did have a question. Can you guys?
Can she speak up?
Yes, I'm sorry. My only question, something for consideration, is the fact that if in fact we approve the agreement, the adjusted agreement with the union, with the 3% increase for the union employees, we're going to lose staff, but we're going to be less capable of serving our public, which is our mission. It's a little bit insulting if you were from the outside as a taxpayer that you're seeing people get paid more, but the availability of services to you as a library patron are going to be less, because even losing just one part-time person in most library facilities has an impact, let alone if it's multiple individuals. So this is something to take under, determine our votes.
Thank you very much. Not to belabor the point, I guess, and Scott, you can correct me, Scott Abbott. First option is to accept the Teamsters labor agreement, Teamsters 14th labor agreement with the library district, knowing that it may cause permanent layoffs. Second option is to not accept the labor agreement. And I suppose the third option is to ask the library director and the chief financial officer to go to layoffs. Of course, they may not be there because we just announced the furlough program, the buyout program. So, Scott, are those the three options?
Chair Ortiz, if I may just clarify, you're not looking to approve or reject the agreement. The agreement's already in place. What you're looking to either approve or reject is the union's concession proposal.
Okay, so we're clear. That's what we're looking for. Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. Let's, what do they say, fish or cut bait or fish, or what do they say? Yes, go ahead, Trustee Merlin Francis Drake.
I suppose there's no way of us knowing, but is there any way that we can see how many people take the options that we're going to be offering them and see if any of that levels things off?
That's why I was asking what the time frame
We
That's was the
we
only
are-
reason I was
we are
asking about the
listening.
time frame is we can call an emergency meeting and let them talk about it for a week and back on the phone and just.
So I get, thank you. So that's another option, is to table it and have an emergency meeting in a week or 10 days.
Oh my gosh.
So those are, somebody has to make a motion.
May I point out that we are not actually lay off until what the response is and the voluntary furlough.
Okay, so Fred and Ron, would you recommend tabling this until we have some better numbers of the employees?
I personally don't think it's necessary. I think what we'll do is we'll make whatever adjustments that number of people that furlough. That means we have that we have to lay off. Most number of people that take the test program. So there's a balance. there.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Trustee Bilbrey.
Shannon. I don't suppose there's any way that we could bring the union back to the table, maybe after he's heard our heartburn, our concerns, where our heads are at, that maybe we could still negotiate. Is that ability at all?
I think
You could always make that overture to the union, but when I spoke with Mr. Davis yesterday, he conveyed what he termed their best proposal, which is what I previously outlined to you. I don't know that that's going to necessarily change. During our negotiations, we were very candid with him and the group as to what the reception might be to the proposal that they ultimately made. So I don't know that it would have much utility to invite them back, but it certainly is an option.
Charity, if I may. And the reason that I'm saying that is because obviously when the statements were made in public comment, there was definitely two sides of the story, and thinking perhaps that if he saw where the board we were thinking maybe that might bring a possibility to have further discussion going. So I'm going to stop talking.
Thank you. Does anybody else have?
This is Jose. I think we know what we need to do, and we need to make this tonight. And the union wants to come back after they hear. We can always call the meeting.
Okay. So trustee, make our motion, vote on it, and then if the union wants to feel that they have the capacity to come back, they can always ask. That's another option. Go ahead, Trustee Robin Willie Muñoz, go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Mendrak.
Everyone needs to mute.
Please mute everybody. Go ahead, Robin.
Okay, I agree with Jose, and I'm sorry, I'm just getting tired now after 6 hours, and all day at the hospital. But anyway, I agree with him, and unfortunately, since this has to go into Carson City, and we have to get it in, and I think that the union rep made it very clear, and unfortunately, I don't know if the members all feel the same as their designees, but I don't think 4 or 5 days is going to make a whole lot of difference. And I think once we make our vote, everybody, votes like I think it probably is going to go. I think that we still have that opportunity, and I think we're all very open-minded and would welcome some other type of an offer if it was to come forward to consider.
Thank you very much. Last request for comments. Anybody? Ron, did you have a comment?
I just think we have the best option if we take number one and just say we have the authority to do it. Fred has outlined that we probably will be okay through June 30th. And by that time, we'll have an idea of who's signing up for VESPs, who's signing up for the voluntary furloughs. And that gives us a better idea of what the economic impact will be next year. So I would, if we have the ability to address the financial needs as they arise, I think that covers us well. And if we don't have to, then thank heavens. But
Okay.
What I'd like to do is that we could do a monthly report to you, the number of people who have taken it, and the expense that we have saved. So we could do that at the next board meeting or the meeting after that, which would probably most likely be July.
Okay, thank you, Fred, our Chief Financial Officer. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Who wants to blink first?
Okay, I'll be the one here.
Okay, go ahead, Robin, please make your motion.
Okay, I'm putting my pants and doing what's fiduciarily responsible. I move that we do not accept the concession platform that was presented to us by the union. Unfortunately, I cannot be in favor of some people getting a raise and others losing their jobs. And I cannot be in favor of us giving raises at this time during a worldwide pandemic when so many people's worlds are crashing down around them and having to teach their children at home and so on and so forth. I just don't see it. If we're all in it together, we're all in it together. So I make the motion that we do not.
Thank you very much.
I
Is there a second?
don't like doing it.
I'll second that.
There's a second from Brian Wilson to decline Teamsters 14's labor agreement request and concessions. There's a second. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to go on the record and say that our director and our chief financial officer have given us guidance that we probably should accept it and get those numbers back in the next few months. So I will no on this motion.
Okay, call for the question. All in favor of not accepting Teamsters 14 labor agreement and concessions? Please vote with aye.
Aye.
Can
Okay.
our chief please go down the list?
Yes, because of this, we're going to have to go down the list. Marilyn Francis Drake, how do you vote? Okay, we'll come back to you in a second. Robin, how do you vote?
I made the motion.
Robin votes yes on the motion. Dr. Rogers, how do you vote?
We lost it.
Yes on the motion.
Yes on the motion, okay. Sandra Raymaker, how do you vote?
Yes on the motion.
Yes. Elizabeth Foyt, how do you vote on the motion?
Yes on the motion.
Shannon Bilbray Axelrod, how do you vote on the motion?
No.
No. Jose Luis Melendres, how do you vote on the motion?
Vote no.
Brian Wilson, how do you vote on the motion?
Aye.
That's a yes. Kelly Benavides, how do you vote on the motion?
Nay.
She that's a no for Kelly Benavides. And Marilyn Francis Drake
Yes.
votes yes on the motion. And I, the chair, Felipe Ortiz, vote yes on the motion. All right, so the motion carries. Thank you very much. The motion is not to accept, the motion was passed not to accept Teamsters 14 labor agreement with increases and reductions that they offered at this time. Scott, is there anything else that I'm missing with this?
Mr. Chair.
Jerry?
My question would be, what's next?
Jerry, before you do that, is there anything else we're missing on this motion? That just got
Yeah, I mean, by passing that motion, you now have the union contract in effect, which means as of July 1st, all three of those things are going to be paid. Unless you have some other action you're taking.
Please repeat that one more time.
Sure. The way things stand right now with that motion is that as of July 1st, the merit, the cost of living, and the insurance premium all go up. So unless you have direction to go forward with something, nothing changes. They're going to get all those things as of July 1st, and you'll have to have massive layoffs, I would guess.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Wells. That's exactly right. So let's hope that the union comes back with a different recommendation within the next 30 days before that happens. That is the intent.
Okay, I just want to make sure clear you hadn't
It's
given us
very
any
clear.
further direction.
Yeah, very clear.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was clear to everyone. This is Shannon Brack, so I'm not.
That's insulting, Shannon, that we don't have sense enough to know that after all this discussion. Really?
Hang on a second. Let's hold, Shannon, go ahead.
I'm just not sure that everyone, and we can ask, who voted yes, realize that now they get every single thing. So we have no concessions at all from the unions. So we've got our health care going up. We have no concessions at all. So I'm not sure that was clear.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Having heard that, correct, there's no concessions, but that means people are going to be laid off. So the union, not the union, I don't want to blame anybody. We were put in a position where we had to pick winners and losers, and that's what happened here today. And of course, there's going to be buyouts and other furlough programs, so there might be an opportunity for an emergency meeting to revisit this, but that's where we're at. But anybody else?
Chair,
Trustee Wilson?
I hope you're right, that the union reaches back out or we reach back out to them. We can make some quick furloughs, cut some costs, Fred can shuffle some numbers. We can resolve this with a quick emergency meeting in a couple weeks. So we don't have to lay off a bunch of people. That's my hope. I'm just gonna cross my fingers and pray that's the outcome we end up with in the end.
Okay.
That indeed is my hope as well. That is what I stated, and it was made very clear by our director, by our finance CFO, and by our council what the outcome would be with this vote. And when the majority, all but 3, voted for it, I think it's very clear that we understood that we're all intelligent people.
Anybody else, so we can close out this item? Okay, having heard all comments on this item, the next item on the agenda, the last item on the agenda is any announcements. Are there any announcements? And Allison, are there anybody for public comment?
Let me check, Charities, if anything new came in. No public comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all 110 individuals listening in. Hard decisions have to be made. Hopefully, we get some very good wind behind us, catch our breath, see if we can, we'll see what happens. And having said that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good night.